If you look around at the digital landscape today, it is just wild how much of the pop culture we consume is, well, heavily manufactured. You have these massive marketing agencies sitting in glass boardrooms armed with incredibly complex algorithms, and they're spending millions of dollars trying to reverse engineer the perfect viral dance or the ultimate meme or the next big hashtag. It is a massive industry. But then every once in a while, something entirely different happens. A beautiful, spontaneous, completely accidental moment occurs, and it just catches fire. It bypasses all the algorithms and marketing budgets, and it connects with people on a purely human level.
It really is a crucial distinction to make when we look at modern media. The most enduring pieces of pop culture, the things that actually stick in our collective memory, almost always come from places of absolute authenticity. You simply cannot manufacture the kind of genuine spontaneity that resonates with millions of people.
And that brings us to the mission of our deep dive today. We are going straight to the heart of one of those beautiful accidents. We are going to explore how a tiny, seemingly insignificant hand gesture from a Philippine noontime television show completely broke the internet. This little movement didn't just stay on a TV screen. It caught the attention of Hollywood action stars, it was performed by international diplomats, and it created a legitimate global cultural phenomenon. Our source material for this deep dive is a really fascinating Wikipedia entry that meticulously details the history, the context, and the massive cultural impact of what is known as the Pabebe wave.
It serves as a phenomenal case study for anyone interested in modern media dynamics. We are essentially going to look at the anatomy of a viral moment from the 2010s. By examining this one specific trend, we can start to understand the underlying mechanics of how pop culture, live television, and genuine human connection all intersect. It shows us exactly how a localized moment can cross oceans and resonate globally.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is the Pabebe wave? I was actually practicing this before we started recording, and it is a highly specific movement. It's not your standard greeting. Based on the physical description in our research, you take your hand and you curve it slightly inwards. You have to make sure all your fingers are closed tight together, absolutely no spaces between them. And then you just do this very small, incredibly restrained side-to-side motion. That's it. It feels very tight and contained when you do it. You should actually try doing it right now while you're listening. Just curve the hand, close the fingers, and do a tiny wave.
The specificity and the restraint of that movement are incredibly important, especially when you contrast it with the gestures that actually inspired it. The history here shows that this is fundamentally a deviation from the traditional beauty contestants wave. If you think about the grand, sweeping, highly glamorous gestures you see in something like the Miss Universe pageant, the Pabebe wave takes that massive movement and shrinks it down. It miniaturizes it into something much more intimate and really almost comical. But it is also fascinating to look at its other inspiration. The research draws a direct parallel to the British royal wave.
Wait, let me pause you right there. So it's actually making fun of the royals. I always thought it was just meant to look cute and innocent. I had no idea there was a parody element to it.
Oh, it is absolutely a parody, and that is part of its brilliance. The royal wave is historically used in comedy to mock the stiff, overly formal, and somewhat detached waving of the British royal family. It is a gesture of extreme formality. So right from the start, before we even get to the people doing it, this little hand gesture is carrying these complex layers of imitation. It's taking the ultimate symbols of high society, beauty queens, and royalty, and playfully mocking them by shrinking the gesture down.
It is like a comedic remix of high society gestures. That makes so much sense. But to really understand why this specific remix caught on, we have to look at the name itself. The word pabebe comes from Filipino slang. It translates to acting cute like a baby. So you take this miniature parodied beauty queen wave and you pair it with the concept of acting like an adorable baby.
Which is an incredibly potent combination when you look at human psychology. Leaning into acting cute is a surprisingly universal human trait. It is endearing, it is non-threatening, and it immediately disarms the people around you. When someone acts intentionally cute in a playful way, it breaks down social barriers. We are biologically hardwired to respond positively to behaviors that signify playfulness and innocence. It is a psychological shortcut to likability.
Right.
When you combine that universal shortcut with a simple, easily replicable hand gesture, you have the absolute perfect ingredients for a viral trend.
So we have the gesture, we have the psychological meaning, but how does something like this actually start? Where did it come from?
To answer that, we have to go back to July 16th, 2015. Let me set the scene for you, because the environment where this was born is essential to understanding its explosion. We are tuning into a Philippine noontime variety show called Eat Bulaga. Specifically, the moment happens during a hugely popular segment of the show called Juan for All for Juan. Now, for you listening, it is important to understand that live variety shows in the Philippines are not just casual entertainment. They are massive cultural institutions. They are daily touchstones for millions of viewers across the country, embedded deeply into the daily routine of the culture.
Right, and the source mentions this whole thing involved an Al-Dub love team. For anyone listening who might not be familiar with the Philippine entertainment industry, what exactly is a love team? Because to a Western audience, that just sounds like two actors who happen to be dating.
That is a great question, because a love team is a very specific, unique phenomenon in Philippine entertainment. It is essentially a heavily marketed long-term pairing of an actor and an actress by a television network or film studio. These pairings are designed to build a massive, incredibly dedicated, and highly organized fan base. The actors star in movies together, they do TV shows together, and their on-screen chemistry is the main draw. In this case, the Al-Dub Love Team was a pairing consisting of actor Alden Richards and actress Maine Mendoza. But the catch here is that during this segment, Maine Mendoza isn't playing herself. She is playing a comedic character named Yaya Dub.
And the defining trait of Yaya Dub is that she is an uptight, strict Yaya, which translates to nanny. She is supposed to be incredibly serious, absolutely no nonsense, no smiling.
Which is the classic comedic setup. You establish a rigid rule for a character. This person never breaks a smile. They're always grumpy. And then you build tension by waiting to see what it will take to break that rule. At the time, they were doing a bit on the show inspired by the Dub Smash app.
Oh man, Dub Smash, that takes me back. For those who might have forgotten, Dub Smash was an app that was absolutely everywhere in 2015 where users would lip sync to famous audio clips and make these highly exaggerated facial expressions.
Exactly. It was all about exaggerated, heavily performed reactions. So Yaya Dub is doing this Dub Smash bit, maintaining her strict, uptight persona. But then she suddenly catches the attention of her love team partner, Alden Richards, on the split screen. And in that split second, the magic happens. Maine Mendoza, the actress behind the character, completely breaks. She lets out this genuine, unscripted smile that she desperately tries and completely fails to conceal. It was so completely out of character for the uptight Yaya Dub.
I can just picture the chaos in the studio. Because it's live television, there are no retakes. The other hosts on the show, these veteran comedians like Tito Soto, Joey De Leon, Vic Soto, and especially Alan Kay, they immediately recognize what just happened. They see the actor's break character, and they absolutely pounce on it. You have this incredibly fun, chaotic environment where they start mercilessly teasing her on live TV about this slip-up. And how does she respond to Alden's greeting and all this intense teasing from the veteran hosts? She can't use words because of the Dub Smash premise, so she initiates that playful, reciprocating hand motion. The Pabebe wave is born right there.
What's fascinating here is the mechanics of the audience's reaction. The live studio audience and the millions of people watching at home weren't just reacting to a funny hand gesture. The wave itself is actually a secondary element. What they were truly reacting to was a genuine, unscripted human moment. They saw an actress fail to hold her composure because of a real spark of chemistry and genuine amusement. In an era where so much television, even reality television, is meticulously scripted, rehearsed, and polished, a character break is incredibly intriguing. It is a moment of pure vulnerability. It reminds the audience that there are real people under those character personas. That kind of unpolished authenticity is magnetic, and that is why the moment immediately caught fire with the audience.
It really was lightning in a bottle. And what happened next is just wild because the wave completely escaped the television screen. It didn't just stay a niche inside joke for the fans of Eat Bulaga. It quickly spread out into the real world and became a standard gesture of friendly greeting across the Philippines. People who didn't even watch the variety show started doing it to say hello to their neighbors or their coworkers.
That transition is the hallmark of a true cultural phenomenon. It moves from being a television reference into actual everyday vernacular. It becomes divorced from its original context. You didn't need to know who Yaya Dub was to use the gesture. You just knew it was the fun, current way to say hello.
And the sheer range of people who adopted it is what really blows my mind. The research shows that it infiltrated every level of society. You had local celebrities doing it on red carpets. Local politicians were documented using it during their public campaign appearances. And perhaps most surprisingly, even the staff at the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines were photographed doing the Pabebe wave. Now, to be clear, we are just looking at this historical record here. We aren't endorsing any of the political figures who used it. But the simple fact that elected officials and diplomatic staff were doing a wave that means act cute like a baby is mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling, but it also carries significant sociological weight. Think about what a diplomatic embassy represents. It is the pinnacle of formality, strict protocol, international hierarchy, and serious geopolitical business. But when those staff members intentionally adopt a localized gesture derived from acting cute like a baby, they are willingly stepping out of that rigid framework. It proves that humor and shared pop culture can, even if just for a brief moment, flatten very rigid social hierarchies. It bridged a massive gap between everyday citizens watching a noontime show and formal diplomatic staff representing a foreign government. It created what is essentially a shared language of approachability.
I love that phrase, a shared language of approachability. And that language didn't just stay within the borders of the Philippines. Here's where it gets really interesting. The trend completely exploded on a global scale. It went from a localized television broadcast to the international stage. The source material specifically lists the international celebrities who were caught on camera doing this wave. We were talking about the rock band Lifehouse. We were talking about the American country music singer Brian White. And, this is my favorite, Hollywood action star Vin Diesel.
The visual contrast there is just phenomenal.
Right. Picture this in your head, Vin Diesel, the guy famous for playing Dominic Toretto in the Fast and Furious franchise, the ultimate gravelly-voiced tough guy who is always talking about family and driving muscle cars out of airplanes. Picture him doing a tiny, restricted hand wave that literally means to act cute like a baby. The sheer surrealism of that image is incredible. It just goes to show you how infectious this thing was.
And that level of surreal celebrity participation is exactly what forces the hand of international legacy media. When you have someone like Vin Diesel participating in a localized Filipino slang trend, the global news cycle has to pivot. They can't ignore it anymore. Our research highlights that prestigious, serious news outlets like BBC News and The Guardian actually had to feature this craze on their programs. They had to dedicate airtime to explaining to their global audiences what a Pabebe wave was.
I would pay good money to watch a serious, stiff upper lip BBC News anchor try to explain the concept of acting cute like a baby with a completely straight face.
It is a brilliant collision of highbrow journalism and fast-moving internet culture. But on a deeper level, this media pivot proves something vital about the landscape of the 2010s. This was the era where digital connectivity truly reached a tipping point. Social media platforms fundamentally changed the rules. Previously, a local fad like this would have stayed confined to a single country or even a single city for years. But the internet erased the friction of geographical borders. It allowed video clips to be shared and trends to be replicated instantly, turning a local television slip-up into global news overnight.
Which brings us to the absolute climax of this entire story. Because when a trend gets that big and crosses that many borders, you can't just let it fade away into the internet archives, you have to memorialize it. According to the history, the pinnacle of this phenomenon occurred on September 26, 2015. On that specific day, the show Eat Bulaga officially declared it National Pabebe Wave Day.
A fully sanctioned, recognized holiday for a spontaneous hand gesture.
Exactly. But it wasn't just a gimmick for the live studio audience to participate in. The records show that thousands of Filipinos all over the world joined in to do the gesture together. It became this massive, synchronized global event. People from different time zones, living on different continents, all doing the Pabebe wave on the exact same day.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the digital footprint of that specific day is what makes it truly historic. The text describes the online activities surrounding this day as a record-breaking tsunami of tweets. Now, we hear phrases like that a lot today, but we need to unpack what a tsunami of tweets actually represents in this context. It is not just passive viewing. It is active, highly organized participation. It demonstrates the sheer organizing power of a passionate fan base.
Wait, a tsunami, what does that actually look like in practice for a fandom to pull something like that off?
It requires a profound level of digital coordination. The Aldub Nation, the dedicated fans of that love team we discussed earlier, utilize social media not just to talk about the show, but to orchestrate a massive synchronized event. They were coordinating hashtags across time zones, planning specific times to post, and mobilizing the global Filipino diaspora. It marks a fascinating shift from traditional media consumption, where you just sit on your couch and watch a show, to active social media participation. The parasocial relationship the fans had with these actors drove real-world measurable action. They didn't just consume the content, they amplified it, they organized around it, and they created a measurable global event out of a spontaneous character break. It was unprecedented at the time for a local television show to command that level of international digital infrastructure.
It is honestly incredibly inspiring when you think about it that way. Millions of people scattered across the globe, united by a simple, joyful movement that was born out of a mistake. So, What does this all mean? Why are we talking about a hand gesture from 2015? I think it's a beautiful reminder of the butterfly effect in pop culture. It shows us how a completely failed attempt by an actress to hide a genuine smile while trying to play the role of an uptight nanny ended up birthing a tiny side to side hand gesture. And that gesture was so infectious, so fundamentally human in its playfulness, that it broke out of the television set, crossed oceans, forced legacy news outlets to pay attention, and was ultimately performed by Hollywood action stars and international diplomats alike. It is absolute proof that joy is incredibly contagious.
It certainly is contagious, and this raises an important question and something I want to leave you with today. Think about your own life. Think about the casual gestures, the inside jokes, or the specific slang that you use with your friends, your family, or your coworkers every single day. We all have them, those little quirks of communication that only our circle understands. How many of those things started as a spontaneous mistake? How many began as a fleeting, completely accidental moment on a screen somewhere, or a slip of the tongue during a conversation, only to slowly evolve into a permanent, irreplaceable part of your shared human language? Culture isn't always handed down from the top by marketers and executives. Very often it is built out of the beautiful little accidents we share with each other.
What a fantastic point to end on. Pay attention to those little inside jokes in your own circles. They might just be the next global phenomenon waiting to happen. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the unexpected, hilarious, and delightful history of the Pabebe wave. Keep an eye out for those beautiful accidents in your own life, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.